Hello, good people. In the past few days, my attention imekuwa captured na these people call themselves leaders. These people call themselves presidential aspirants. They want to lead this country. They want to be president of this country. So nimekuwa nikiwasikiza. But something kept on disturbing my mind. Nikiwasikiza what I'm like, do these people really understand the problem of this country? Maybe let me summarize it in few words. For example, when you listen to Rigathi Gachagua and the group, that means Rigathi Gachagua, Fred Matiang'i, Kalonzo Musyoka and the group, they believe the problem of this country is an individual called William Ruto. That's why they think that's the biggest problem of this country, that if in case Kenya gets rid of William Ruto, then we are sorted, we are okay, we are good to go. Then I listened to another group led by Maraga, who seems to be like a different voice. Is not allied to maybe the so-called united opposition, and is not on the other side of broad-based. Maraga said that the problem of this country is not implementing the constitution. And he singled out the issue of 2/3 gender rule and said, if he becomes president, that's one thing that he's going to do. That he's going to make sure the women, the gender is balanced, half. It's not even 2/3. So he said women will be given 50% of leadership of this country, and so many others. So different people have different opinions on how this country is to be taken forward. Maraga says that the problem of this country is that the people in leadership are not implementing the constitution the way it's supposed to be implemented. There are those who agree with that. There are others who say that the biggest problem of this country is the economy. And many other Kenyans believe that the biggest problem we are facing currently is that there is no money. People don't have money in their pockets. All these issues seems to be making sense in one way or another. But maybe let's single out and discuss one at a time. Let's start from the former Chief Justice, David Maraga. I'm not against any person standing to become president in this country, because it's a democratic right and it is given in the constitution that there are requirements on how one should become a leader, and I'm sure they are all cleared to become presidents in their own rights and freedoms. Maraga coming and saying that maybe, for example, when he becomes president, he wants to implement a 2/3 gender rule. Is that really the problem of this country? Is the problem of this country about few women in parliament, few women in positions of appointive positions of leadership? Is that the problem of this country? Take, for example, he becomes president, and his first priority is to make sure that there is a 50-50% government share between the gender, the male and the female. Can that solve the problem the people are suffering right now? The problems we are facing as a people or as a country currently? Can that solve the problem? Is the problem about who's holding which position? It's for Kenyans to decide. Kenyans know best. Another thing, there is the other group which says that the biggest problem of this country is William Samoei Ruto, and the moment we get rid of William Samoei Ruto, or like the moment we kick him out of office, then the problems of this country are sorted. How true is that? All these people who are contesting to positions of leadership or to become president of this country, they have held an influential position in one way or another. We can start from maybe Kalonzo Musyoka. Kalonzo was the second in command, not several years ago, just 2010, he was the vice president. What did you do as the vice president? You know, there is this thing that people think it is easier to be in the opposition. To be in the opposition is the easiest thing that you can be. For example, let me say this for the record. The love which Raila Odinga received in his life was because he never clinged to power. There is a difference between being in power, or like the buck stops with you, and being outside, whereby you can poke holes and say there is a mistake here, and there. But when the buck stops with you, you must bear the responsibility. A few years ago, when William Samoei Ruto was campaigning to become president, he was the most favorite. People thought that if we get this person to power, then our problems will be sorted. Then they went ahead to elect him to become president, hoping that the problem of the country was the leadership then. So they thought that if they give William Ruto power, then he will sort their problems. But there's a big difference between campaign and reality in office. This is a position whereby during campaign you can say, this regime is killing people, this regime is doing this and this. But when you are in office and you face a situation, it might become difficult for you to handle. What is the problem of this country? What is the real issues we are facing as a country? Is it the regime? Because when you are outside, you can castigate, you can cast aspersions, and you can prove your point. You can look very popular politically. So can we trust somebody based on that? That we trust this person in anticipation that when he becomes president, or when he goes to office, or when he will occupy the office of the president, he will do miracles. According to me, miracles don't happen. Miracles stopped happening long time ago. It is the responsibility. You must have a track record. As Kenyans are going to 2027 elections, what I'm urging the people is that we should look at the track record of somebody. Because at this rate, we are going to make the same mistake we have been making in the past. I said this in my past video, and let me maybe repeat it for the sake of emphasis. Moi was president for more than 24 years. The GDP of the country was about 170 billion, and the debt was about 800 billion. So when he handed over government to Kibaki, he handed over a GDP of 170 and a debt of 800 billion, about there. Kibaki took a poor government, we can say a poor government, but which didn't have debt obligations. Then he drove the economy, and he made sure he raised the GDP from 170 billion to about 1 trillion when he was handing over in 10 years, despite the challenges which we faced in between the 10 years of Kibaki. Then debt also rose from 800 billion to about 1.8 trillion in 10 years. When you will critique the figures, you realize that he raised the rise in debt and the rise in GDP commensurates, like it resonates. It's almost the same figure. Uhuru came to power and took a debt of about 1.8 trillion and a GDP of 1 trillion. In his 10 years, GDP grew from 1 trillion to 2 trillion, and debt grew to about 10 trillion. So, like, debt grew to about 10 trillion. When you add the monies which were borrowed by state-owned enterprises, it was about 10 trillion, not 8 point something. And GDP grew by 1 trillion. What happened? What happened? Those are the questions that Kenyans need to ask themselves so that we can diagnose where the problem is. Because at the end of the day, the problem of this country, I can tell you for sure, is not an individual. It is something big. It goes beyond an individual. What happened? Because that's where the rain started beating us. What happened? The debt grew to about 10 and GDP grew just by 1 trillion. So politicians will come and say, this is the problem and this is not the problem. You will come and say, we have the best constitution. The problem is the leadership. That when I go to power, I will be an angel and I will implement the law the way it's supposed to be implemented. Take, for example, you elect somebody who says he's going to obey the law to the letter and is going to make the right decisions. But unfortunately, the people, like for example, take for example what the former Chief Justice said, Maraga, that if he becomes president, he will implement the law to the fullest. So what is stopping the current regime to implement the law? That is a popular kind of a narrative that people try to push around for the sake of positions of leadership. Take for example, in parliament, the law says there should be at least 2/3 gender rule being implemented in parliament. So take for example, the people of Kenya in their own wisdom or lack of it, decide to elect all members of parliament male, all of them. So what happens? Are you going to calculate the 2/3 gender rule, then you appoint, like you nominate all the rest female? Suppose we have 290 constituencies and 47 counties. So that means we should have 290 elected members of parliament from respective constituencies and 47 women representatives. Then what are you going to do? To nominate all the female MPs to represent who? Because basically or constitutionally the role of parliament or the role of members of parliament is to legislate, represent and oversight. So who all these women which you are going to whom you are going to nominate, who are they going to represent, for example? Because each and every member of parliament should have a constituency to represent. Who are they going to represent? The problem of this country is far much bigger than what we think. And this is like for example, on the side of Rigathi Gachagua and the group, they think that the problem of this country is William Samoei Ruto. That if you get Ruto out of office and they give them power, then the problem of this country is going to be solved. How is that possible? I'm not here to campaign for anybody, but I want to state facts. Take for example, a situation like we have a budget of about 4.2 trillion currently, and the money which we are anticipating to raise at the end of the financial year is about 2.8 trillion when this Finance Act is implemented fully. This Finance Act of 2025 is anticipated to collect about 2.8 trillion, but we have a budget of 4.2 trillion. Is that practical? How is that practical? That we have a budget of 4.2, that's the money we need to spend at the end of the financial year. And the money we anticipate to raise in the process is 2.8 trillion. That is the biggest problem we have as a country. That's the biggest problem we are facing as a people. The biggest problem we have as a people is the budgets. Take for example a situation whereby you have a budget of 4.2 trillion, and it's on out of 4.2 trillion, less than 800 billion is allocated to development. The rest is recurrent. How can you get out of that? That means if you take 4.2 trillion and then you subtract 800 billion, you remain with about 3.4 trillion for recurrent. And the money you collect from taxation and all these kind of over-taxation Kenyans are facing is less than 2.8 trillion. So when you hit the targets, when the KRA hits the targets, it will raise 2.8 trillion. Mostly it's not the case. In most cases they don't hit the targets, they collect less. So it means they will collect about 2.5 there trillion. But you need 3.4 trillion for recurrent. Then you think that you are going to come, how are you going to come out of that situation? How are you going to get yourself out of that situation? That is the biggest problem with this country. So whoever is coming out and saying that he wants to become president of this country, he must first tell us how he's going to reduce the budget from about 4 point something trillion to the budget which we can manage, the budget which we can raise. 2.8 trillion is too big. That's why the Kenyans are feeling the heat, because there is overtaxation. They feel the heat of overtaxation when we are raising 2.8, but we need 3.4 for recurrent. That's not the problem that is going to end by maandamano. It is a problem which Kenyans should come and address. Come out with solutions. Come out with solutions on how to mitigate or to reduce the budget. What is it that is making our budget to be so big? If we manage to crack that question, then we should say, now we are okay. We are heading in the right track towards solving the problems we are facing as a country. We must first crack the real questions which we are facing as a people. The biggest problem, people say that there are no money. They don't have money in their pockets. But how do you get money? The only way people make money is by working. You work, then you get money. So is the problem getting money in your pocket, or there are no jobs? The problem is that there are no jobs. What can we do to create job opportunities for the increasing population? People right now, they feel that the heat is so much, there are no money. The reason why there is no money is that there are no jobs. The main reason why there is no money with the people, or the reason why people feel that they don't have money in their pockets, is because they don't have jobs. Because there is no job that you have done and you have not been paid. So the biggest reason is that there is no jobs for people. Now that's right now in 2025. Give it to 2029 and give all this lot which is in the colleges and universities to graduate, and there's nothing that is going to absorb them as job opportunities. What will happen? More heat. Is it possible that Kenyans can sit down and diagnose the problem we are facing as a country honorably, with open mind, so that we can mitigate the situation? We can kick one leader out and put another one, but all these people are the same. All politicians are the same. Let nobody lie to you. All politicians are just the same. They are politicians. They come and tell, this is the wrong person in office, I am the right person. Then when they get into office, the other person will say, this is the wrong person, I am the wrong person. So we'll be going round and round, doing the same thing, the same way, expecting different results. It's not going to work like that. So first, I urge Kenyans to come out and diagnose where the problem is. And the biggest problem of this country are the budgets. We have very big budgets, which we can't afford to fund. We can't fund all these budgets. Because if we have a budget of 4.2 trillion, and the only money which we can raise as a people is less than 2.8 trillion, what happens? We are going to borrow. Then next year we will borrow. The following year we will borrow. Then what's the end game of this borrowing? It will come back and bite us as a people. Because if it comes, it will come to a point that now you will not borrow anymore. People will say, before we lend you money, pay the past debt first. And that's when chaos will start. That's what made Sudan to fall. So Kenyan youth should stop these trivialities that they are doing and address the real problem. When, for example, instead of opposing the finance bill, you remember, the finance bill is non-consequential. That's why people can say, okay, we stopped the finance bill, we're not going to implement it. Go take it back to parliament and delete all the clauses without consequences. We should come up with our own budget. Let's diagnose, let us look at the budget, the appropriations, the way they have listed them, and see how are the money being spent. Where are we spending money and we are not supposed to spend the money? Then let's try and reduce the budget. For instance, Raila Odinga, who fought for this devolution, whatever, the new constitution with the devolution in it, before he died, he said he thought that we have so many counties. He thought that the counties are too much, are too many. That's the last thing he said. Standing, as they say, the last standing command that he gave. He said that the counties are too many. I agree, 100%. We are overrepresented. Can we first start from there? Why should we have a county which raises 200 million to the national basket and it needs 5 billion to be run in the same period? Is that practical? Let us start addressing those issues first if we want if at all we want to salvage the situation. If at all we want to salvage this whole situation, let us address the real issues. Let us stop these shadows, fighting shadows. Let us fight the issues. The problem of this country is bigger than an individual. It is the economy, it's unemployment. That's the biggest problem we have as a country. Let nobody lie to you. And if we diagnose the problem, then we will be moving on the right track to salvage the sinking country. Because honestly, Kenya is not a going concern. As you can see, you can't clearly see the vision of Kenya in 2030, 2050, 2040 going forward. You can't clearly see, and imagine how Kenya will look like in the next 15, 20 years. It's not clear. And if we don't act, by acting I mean we should bring our heads together to diagnose the problem. When we declare war, when we say we are going to fight with whoever we want to fight with, we will never win that war, because the moment you declare war, the opponent you are declaring war will plan on how to counter you, not to listen to you. But we should listen to one another and try to understand on how we can go forward. Because at the end of the day, we want a country first to live in so that we can continue doing whatever we want to do. Let's have a country, and the only way we can have a country is to bring our heads together and diagnose the problem. The problem is not an individual. The problem of this country is so big, it's so diverse. This is the economy, which includes unemployment, all these things, over budgeting, misuse of resources, and misappropriations. Start from the counties, start from the constituencies, then we go up. Because at the end of the day, the most corrupt organs of this government are the counties. as we are going to choose to select leaders who will lead us in the next government of 2027, can we look at the track record? Somebody will come and tell you, maybe right now that person is a governor. He will come in 2027 and tell you, this person who is the president does not deserve to be given this opportunity. I am the one who is supposed to be given the opportunity. But what did you do when you were the governor? The whole village was wiped by floods. Where were you? What did you do as the governor so that we can trust you with the whole country? You had a county. You were managing a county. You are the chief executive officer of the county and the chief financial manager of the county. How do you manage your finances when you were the governor so that we can trust you with the whole country? You left the county to dilapidate. Like the whole county was it wasted away. Then you want us to leave you the country to waste. Look at the track record. Let us look beyond our emotions.